Noise. Especially urban noise and urban noise pollution has emerged as a significant health hazard in the urban areas in our country. Now, while it has emerged as a health hazard, yet it remains under-recognized. Decibel levels have been frequently increasing and surpassing the permissible limits, especially in sensitive zones like schools, colleges, educational institutions, judicial courts, and different other areas as well. Now, this situation undermines the constitutional right to peace and dignity for individuals. Now, though noise is identified as an air pollutant under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, yet it is medically linked to several diseases like hypertension, also sleep disorders, sleep-related multiple disorders like stress, and also cognitive deficiencies as well, and decline in cognitive levels of humans. Also, reduced life expectancy, and it also continues to be neglected till now. After so many health hazards, still today, noise pollution is neglected and it's very less talked about. And because it is under-recognized, investment in noise pollution and combating and controlling noise pollution in systematic monitoring or weather data collection, the scale of investment is considerably really less. And which is why the problem continues to haunt millions and millions of people in our entire country. If we talk about certain data and statistics, an Earth 5-hour survey which was conducted in January of 2023 finds that across 15 Indian cities, noise levels in silent and residential areas was nearly 50% higher than the permissible 50 decibel units. Which means the 50 decibel limit which is there in these areas, sensitive areas, actual noise level is 50% higher than that. 50% higher than the permissible limits, and that could be seen in 15 prominent cities in India, according to the survey which was conducted in the year 2023. Now, this is not all. The biggest problem with noise pollution is that it leads to hearing loss as well, sudden hearing loss as well. And which is why over 6% of Indians, according to the World Health Organization estimate from the year 2007, around 6% Indians have hearing loss impairment, have hearing loss problems. And one more important fact to note here is that long-term exposure to noise levels above 60 decibels results in noise-induced hearing loss. In short form, it is known as NIHL, noise-induced hearing loss. And as you would already know, that it can lead to several cardiac problems, cardiac arrests, deafness in individuals, sleep disturbances, and as I've already told you, cognitive imbalances and cognitive impairment in younger people especially. Now, since noise pollution is such a hazard, and yet it is under-recognized, it is imperative for us to understand noise pollution in its entirety. That what actually you mean by noise pollution, why noise pollution exists, what are different sources of noise pollution, what are government initiatives to combat these noise pollutions, and what can be possible way forward and solutions to solve this particular problem in our society and to develop a noise-free society in reality. All these questions we'll be trying to address in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. Now, first of all, let us define noise pollution. In simple terms, noise pollution refers to harmful and unwanted sounds which disturbs humans and animal lives. So any harmful sound or any disturbing sound which disturb humans, which is unwanted and disturbs humans or animals, is what we call as noise. Now, World Health Organization has given certain safe noise limits, that beyond how much decibels you can have noise or which you can hear sound, which is for daytime, it is approximately up to 65 decibels. That is the noise limit, which means sound above that is considered noise. And during nighttime, it is around 30 decibels for a restful sleep. If it is beyond that, you won't be able to sleep peacefully. And for traffic exposure, it is around 53 decibels, which is the cutoff. Beyond that, noise should not go. And also WHO has also highlighted that any noise which exceeds 75 decibel units, 75 decibel points, is considered harmful. And if noise goes beyond 120 decibels, it is considered as painful according to World Health Organization. And to give you certain perspective in context to India, in India's urban centers, urban cities, traffic, construction, entertainment hotspots often exceed more than 90 decibels, sometimes even 100 to 110 decibels certain times. Also, a lot of times if you've seen IPL or different cricket matches, in those matches as well, noise pollution exceeds the minimum decibel limit points which is prescribed, and which is well beyond the safety levels, and which is why it is a very big cause of our concern. Now, since we are very well versed with what do you mean by noise and what is noise pollution, what we need to understand is what are the sources of noise pollution in our day-to-day lives. The first very prominent source is traffic and transportation. See, whether it be vehicle honking, whether it be bus horns, whether it be aircraft takeoffs, all of these accounts for more than 100 decibel units in case of noise pollution. The bus honking or vehicle honking can be from 90 to 100 decibels. Bus horns is definitely 100 decibels. Aircraft takeoff is around 130 decibel. So which means transportation and especially traffic is a very heavy contributor towards noise pollution in our society. Other than traffic and transportation, it is the construction activities, the machines, the equipments. They simultaneously working while the people are working in their daytime, people are in their offices, at home, students are in the school studying. Construction works, they lead to a lot of sound pollution. And because of urbanization in the society, 24/7 construction activities are going on. Some places even construction activities goes on till night, which is why different equipments like drilling machines, especially pile drivers or concrete mixers, they produce sounds to the tune of 90 to 110 decibels, which is again considered harmful for human safety measures or human safety levels. So traffic and transportation is one, construction activities is another. Third is industrial and commercial spaces. Now, machines working in those industries and commercial spaces also contributes a lot towards noise pollution. Factories which are located near residential areas, they cause a lot of problem. For example, generators, for example, mills, different big machineries which are working, and they work at a huge scale as well, leads to massive noise pollution. And not just this, commercial spaces are one. Even residential spaces and domestic places creates a lot of noise pollution. Sometimes loudspeakers, sometimes generators, sometimes poorly insulated buildings, they also amplify noise to a greater extent. But that is not all. In the last 1 to 2 decades, entertainment and nightlife, especially in urban areas, have become a major contributor towards noise pollution. Now, because of pubs, clubs, bars, lounges, working for the entire night, working till 4 a.m. in the morning or 5 a.m. in the morning, they lead to massive noise pollution. See, a normal DJ night would definitely cross 100 decibel points, which is more than harmful. And which is why this impacts the nearby residential areas as well, if it is around a residential area. Which is why noise pollution, because of this entertainment industry, because of this nightlife, is also prominent. Now, these are different sources which we see around ourselves, which are contributors or sources to noise pollution in the society. So, once we're clear with the sources, we need to understand the effect of noise pollution. The effect of noise pollution, especially amongst the teenagers or children who are below the age of 14, is much more. See, the biggest problem is in relation to hearing impairment. Now, leave that as well. A World Health Organization estimate, it suggests that around 1.1 billion young people which are aged from 12 to 35 years of age are at the risk of hearing loss due to result of massive noise exposure. And this you must have seen with multiple people in your family as well, that some people who are having prolonged exposure to noise levels which are beyond the safety limits and loud noises which are louder than the average level of the sound intensity, they often suffer this problem of hearing impairment. Also, their eardrum might get damaged, and hearing impairment, hearing loss is much common. That leads to deafness. Now, not just this, several sleeping problems like improper sleeping cycle, a lot of exhaustion, poor energy, and sleeping disorders can also be one of the impact of this prolonged noise pollution or prolonged exposure to higher noise levels. Also, not just this, but problems as severe as chronic health problems might also be one of the impact. See, exposure to noise pollution, it increases the risk of these metabolic and cardiovascular diseases to maximum. Diseases such as diabetes or such as coronary heart diseases or high blood pressure and arterial hypertension are very significant or very important impacts or effects of noise pollution. Also, there is a conservative estimate which just simply suggests that long-term environmental noise pollution or noise exposure contributes to around 12,000 premature deaths and 48,000 new cases of ischemic heart diseases per year in Europe, which is a very startling fact, and which is why noise pollution is something which needs to be looked at as priority. See, any unpleasant sound, unwanted sound, which is beyond the safety decibel limits, it definitely impacts our mentality. It definitely impacts our mind, our sleeping pattern, our sleeping cycle, our diseases, our heart health, our overall human health, and alongside that, it impacts our productivity as well. Our productivity at home, our productivity in general, our productivity in office and work. overall the productivity gets negatively impacted, and which is why human performance deteriorates over a period of time due to heavy exposure to noise. But now the question should be that if noise is so bad and there are certain safety limits beyond which noise should not cross, what are the legal safeguards, or what is the government doing in this regard to ensure that noise pollution is limited and is minimal in the society? Now, for that, one thing is simply done. CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, has defined noise as unwanted sound that is clear. But under Section 2, subsection A of the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, noise in particular is classified as an air pollutant, which means noise relates to air pollution. That is one legal provision under this Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981. Other than that, there are specific rules by the government for noise pollution as well. We call them as Noise Pollution Regulation and Control Rules of 2000, which were framed under the guise of the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. So under Environmental Protection Act of 1986, there were certain rules which are in relation to noise pollution, regulation and control rules of 2000. Now, according to those rules, these rules outline the permissible decibel limits, noise limits. It also designates silence zones of a particular area and also impose restrictions on loudspeakers, home construction equipment and firecrackers in the society as well. Also, enforcement responsibility to the authorities have already been assigned. So which means they can enforce these particular rules in reality as well. Now, according to these rules, earlier we saw the WHO limit. Now, according to these rules, what are the limits in relation to noise for different areas and for different times of the day? Now, for example, in industrial areas, during daytime, 75 decibels beyond is considered as noise, is considered as harmful. Similarly, at night, 70 beyond is considered as harmful. In commercial areas, 65 beyond is considered as harmful and 55 decibel beyond is considered harmful. Again, in case of residential areas, again 55 decibels at a day is permissible and 45 decibels at night is permissible. But there is specific category which is known as silence zones, which are 100 meters around areas like hospitals, schools, courts, etc. And their permissible limit is around 50 decibels during day and 40 decibels during at night. Now here we have to specifically note that the daytime is defined from 6 am to 10 pm. And the night time is defined from 10 pm to 6 am the next day. So now to answer very quickly, if certain government measures are there and government legal provisions are into place, why the government is not able to regulate noise pollution as such? So the loopholes are very simple and very easy to understand. See, first is inadequate monitoring. Now, it leaves the policymakers blind. Now, policymakers are not having any noise-related data, and because of which they are not able to formulate any policy in relation to noise at all. That is the first part. Data are not available. See, the first problem was in relation to monitoring. The second problem is in relation to enforcement, which means there is a weak enforcement and cultural acceptability that this much noise is common. So second problem is in relation to enforcement, that enforcement of the law officers or officers in this regard, noise pollution is very, very poor. Okay. Now, first is in relation to inadequate monitoring. Second is inadequate enforcement. And the last was in relation to fragmented governance, which means the bodies responsible for the governance of different laws and regulations. In this particular regard, there is a tussle between them, which means there is split between pollution boards, CPCB, SPCBs. There is a split between the municipalities, police, that who is responsible for what part in this controlling the menace of noise pollution. See, duties and responsibilities and accountabilities are limited. See, then the case is that if it is such a big problem that even the government is not able to address it, then what should be the viable solution? The viable solution should be very, very simple. That is that we need to address this noise pollution by treating it as priority. We need to treat it at par with air pollution, at par with water pollution, and then evidence-based, public health focused interventions needs to be there in order to ensure that this particular problem is solved. Also, the problem in all the three stages which I just suggested, that is a problem in monitoring. Real-time monitoring of noise pollution should be there. These devices should be made. What are IITs in our country doing? What are NITs in our country doing? They should be given projects to develop these type of real-time sensory projects or real-time sensory equipments, right? This is one. That is the monitoring, inadequate monitoring needs to be corrected. Second is in relation to enforcement. Now, enforcement needs to be corrected at all costs, whether it be from the lower level or at the upper level. Law or rule which is made by the government needs to be enforced, and which is why people need to be made aware first, and then enforcement should be made strict. And also not just the enforcement. Enforcement definitely needs to be there, but the overall governance need not to be fragmented. All the stakeholders which are a part of this needs to come together in synergy, needs to sit on board, talk to each other, receive an amicable solution, and then try to implement the solution as an overall. Which is why ensuring interagency coordination, interagency cooperation, community engagement, and Different other spheres are very vital. For example, awareness campaigns, partnerships with the local leaders can help in cultural reforms while ensuring in inclusive solutions. The crux is very simple. By embedding noise pollution into clean air agendas, clean air strategies, urban planning, and public health strategies, India can safeguard thousands and millions of people's lives by saving them from this type of pollution, which is definitely made by humans and which can be stopped by humans as well. So I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. Do let me know what are your views surrounding this particular topic. I'll be very happy to read your comments. All the very best. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.